So excited to have a special guest on the show, the Rainmaker family show today. This guest we have heard speak multiple times at conferences that we're going to. We paid a lot of money to be at these conferences, and she always drops crazy value that has really helped us level up our mindset. And so we reached out to her. Luckily, we got to know her through some programs we're in, and she agreed to be on the show. So we're so excited to have you today, Sarah Petty.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yes, we love the show to be like, hey, like we're just sitting on the couch having a conversation. And I feel like what you carry is so important for the listeners of this show because what I've seen you do with your audience, with the people that you have empowered, you've really helped them level up, right? Level up. And that's something we talk about in Rainmakers all the time is like, how can we look for ways to level up? How can we have leverage in our life? How can we, increase our income without stretching our families thin, right? And you really carry so much breakthrough in that area. So if you could do just like a quick bio about yourself, like what do you do right now? How do you help people? And then we'd love to dig into some of these concepts because I feel like even if you're not in this niche that Sarah's about to talk about, this can truly have an impact in your life.
Absolutely. So I was newly married. I was a marketing director at an ad agency. I was a business person. I loved business and marketing. Long story short, I got pregnant with twins, spent the practically a whole year in the hospital. And when they came into the world, I was like, I'm not going back to that crazy town. I loved it, but I wanted to be that mom. And I'd been doing photography as a hobby. I was untrained, wasn't excellent, wasn't highly skilled. But I was selling things and I was getting clients, but I was charging $75, giving them all the proof. So it was pre-digital. And I thought, well, heck, if I could just do this for a while, I could make money and I could stay home with my kids. So I could be like an entrepreneur and I could be a stay-at-home mom. I could do both.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, what a perfect world. And quickly I realized even with, having degrees in marketing and working in marketing, I worked at Coca-Cola too, but they don't teach you how to run your own photography business. So I came in, I was a broken mess. And really quickly I realized, okay, I used to get a paycheck every 2 weeks and that's not there anymore. So I was trading money, I was paying bills, but there was no money left at the end. And so that's when I realized I have to figure this out or I need to go get a job. Like it just I wasn't going to live and sacrifice for years, and settle for not having, date nights with my husband and not having some new clothes now and then and watching the savings dwindle, not having a college fund. So that's really what motivated me was figuring out how do I compete in a place where really even more now after digital, we're competing with free because everyone has a digital camera in their pocket. And so when we wrote our book, Worth Every Penny, it's not just for photographers. It's the whole concept, though, of if I can compete with free, anybody can do it. We can't win that price race to the bottom. You're never going to be the cheapest because you get there and someone else is like, oh, I'll just buy a camera and do it myself. Or my brother has a camera. And so now I've dedicated my life to both running my portrait studio and educating portrait photographers on how to charge what they're worth, which again, the things we're talking about are applicable to any business.
That's so amazing. And if you're listening to the show, like if you want to get a raise and you want to give yourself a raise, if you're a business owner, the fun part is we can give ourselves a raise, but you got to kind of know how. We had another guest on the show. She was talking about, most people just think about when they think about increasing like how much they're making, right? They go to either increasing their rate or increasing their time, right? Most people go to time first. Like you were shooting $75 shoots. You're like, okay, I can do more shoots. But then all of a sudden it's draining, it's stressful. So then you go to rate, right? But I think when you go to increase rate, there's these mindset blocks that come up, I feel like, because we were in the wedding industry, we were doing photography as well. And same thing, like there were certain photographers who were like, oh, that's a $10,000 photographer, and it was just like this like golden, opportunity, but we didn't know how to get there. And there was mental blocks on the way to getting there. We did get our prices up to a good level, but what are those big things that come up in people's heads when they think about charging what they're worth or even just increasing their rate a little bit? What are those walls? You work with so many people. What are those mental walls that come up?
Yeah, I think we call it head trash. And we send our community a little trash can that says head trash. Like it's got the little recycle mark on it too, like a recycling trash can because we all recycle. But that's really where it is. And when I first started teaching, I would just give people tactics like go do this and it'll work. And they'd be like, oh, but I can't say that, or I can't charge that, or I can't do that. And I realized, looking back at my journey too, I was in that same place. So I remember creating those prices that first time because I realized I had to get away from giving it all away. I was giving proofs to actually only letting them order products, and then they would pay me. And I remember, stressing over, like, should it be $90? And I'd wake up and be like, no, it should be $80, like $83. I had this whole conversation, but I think a lot of it is, I'm not good enough because I wasn't a trained photographer. And so I thought I'm going to become this great photographer. And I did what every good entrepreneur must do. And I dug into my pocket, and I had no money, but I found a way to invest to go study with this award-winning, fabulous photographer. I get there, I'm like, this is going to be amazing, And he goes through a bunch of photography stuff, and I'm like, all right, give me like how you make money. He's like, oh, I don't make money. He like delivered pizzas on the side. And I was like, okay, moment here that just becoming a great photographer does not make you more money. So I was like, okay, check that box. I do want to keep getting better. And I, kept working on my skills there, but I was like, that's not the answer to more money. And so then I was like, I don't have any money. None of my friends have any money. None of my friends are coming to me. No one can afford more. And then I was like, nope, there are people out there. And so in our community, we celebrate Julie. It sounds so funny, but my first right fit client, when I finally had enough, I'm like, I'm going to do this right. I went out and marketed ad agency style, got this first client. Her name was Julie. She had a brand new baby, and she came in, and despite I had everything messed up, right? But I changed my whole system to products, and I sat with her to help her order. And it was, even after my sabotaging, it was $1,800. And that's what changed everything for me. I was sort of like, oh my gosh, someone gave me $1,800. This is crazy town. I can do this again. So with our students, when they get $1,000 order, we give them a Julie lanyard, and then they earn different, little charms and things to put on it. But I know if people can get that first Julie, they will also see that they can do it as well, right? Doing it, people always get stuck, I think, in learning mode. Like, I'm going to learn, and I don't know if you feel this way, but you can't learn to ride a bike by reading a book or watching a video. You've got to do it. You've got to do it. And I'm always surprised at how many people just want to stay stuck in learning mode versus the people who realize I need support. I need help. Like mommy running next to me with the bike is going to end better than never getting on the bike or trying it on my own and like crashing and really getting hurt. So I don't know. I think that head trash piece is in realizing you're not alone. So it's not unique to you. It's not just you who isn't good enough or who has a imposter syndrome. Like, I think every single entrepreneur has that. So for me, that was the big epiphany that, oh my gosh, all of the things holding me back are thoughts that I'm having. And I can change those thoughts. And it may mean getting education. It may mean doing some things like finding someone who's doing it, trying to, get coaching, but it's not me because other people are doing it. So that was what really opened up for me. If someone's doing it, I can do it too.
Wow. I love that. Yeah. Seeing other people like getting their first Julie and having, a place where you can be celebrated. I think that's so key. I love that, Sarah. I would love to ask you, because I feel like, we do have a lot of people that are in a service-based business, and you touch upon it so well as far as being in a position and being able to talk about like your price and your worth, but being okay that like your friends and your family and maybe even those first customers who paid you the $70 might not be your customers moving forward, and being okay with that, especially in, photography specifically, could feel so like saturated, like with everybody picking up a camera. Like, what are some of the mindsets that you feel like you love teaching your students about, like with being okay that like your sister-in-law or your best friend or your friend of a friend might not be your ideal client anymore?
Yeah, I really kind of had that scarcity mindset too, right? That there's a pie. We're all fighting for a piece of that pie. And I remember, I think it was having kids that changed me, because all of a sudden the time that I was putting into my business and I loved became a little more valuable. And I got kind of talked into doing a business event. It was for someone running for governor. I'm in the capital of Illinois. And so it was this political fundraiser in a dark house. I show up. I didn't have the equipment. I don't really do that. And they're like, oh, Sarah, you'll get all this business from it. No, it was not anybody who would ever be my client. They were all state workers trying to jockey to get their picture with the governor. And it was just horrible. And the night was terrible. And I remember thinking, I don't want this as a career if this is what I have to do. This is no fun. So I started getting clear on, what do I love? What is it I want to do? And if that's not what I want to do, I'm going to say no. And I remember the first time I took a phone call and it was a wrong fit client. And I said, that's just really not what I do. And I remember the whole time my stomach hurt. And I was like, how can you be saying no to somebody who wants to give you money? And then I got off the phone and I thought, that felt so good. Because I think we fill our time out of scarcity with these sessions that are either free for like exposure or underpriced, and we're up all night editing and we're not having a good quality of life. And then we don't have any time to go do the right activities to get the right clients. And I've had to do some brain work over the years too. You know, you ask about like, you see someone, a good friend with photos on Facebook that you didn't take. And I just realized, you know what? There's enough for everybody. And I just said, I can get mad and I can go on Facebook and be like, oh, how could they not come to me? But you know what? I'm not affordable necessarily or everybody's priority, and that's okay. So I always gush on them and I let them know, I'm so glad you're getting photos. I hope you're getting them printed. Usually they're not. And sometimes they're amazing and sometimes they're not. But I feel like my story is I did not exist when I was a child, like no photos of me anywhere. So I just remind myself, I'm so happy people have photos now and they're hopefully printing them. And so really trying to remember that there isn't a pie, because literally, I don't know that there's an industry that has more competitors than photographers. They're everywhere. I'd go speak to my kids' classroom and every kid would be like, my mom's a photographer, my dad's a photographer. I was waiting for like, I'm a photographer.
Yeah.
Now some of the high school seniors are photographers, right? So it's just, we have to remind ourselves that there is enough, because when we get in that scarcity mindset, I feel like it makes us feel yucky, feel like we're being selfish or possessive, or it just doesn't leave me with a good feeling. And it feels so good to say there's enough for all of us. And when we do that, it's like we let people be free to go to someone else if they don't prioritize photography. Because if you look around in the world, because a lot of people say no one will pay that. I mean, I pay a lot for certain things. Like I'll go to the farmer's market and pay a lot of money for really juicy raspberries and fresh fruits and vegetables that some people would be like, I'm never paying that money. I know people who hate fruits and vegetables. Like they think that's a waste of money. And so it's all about finding the people who value what you do. And when it comes to price, what I've learned in all these years of having to get my prices up there, and I'm in a cornfield in central Illinois. All right. So if I can have high prices, anybody can. Because people are always like, oh, but I'm in this city or that city. Hey, I'm in a cornfield. But I've learned that it's not about price. It's really not, because you might think a steak dinner for $100 is a lot. And someone else goes to Ruth's Chris and doesn't think $1,000 dinner is too much. So too much is so relative. Mm-hmm. And so I look at it as, where do I want to be in the market? Because I want to work with the people who love photography, who want to spend the extra time creating something cool and getting custom framing and having this beautiful artwork. So what do I have to do to be worth charging at the higher level? What do I have to do? Because someone's doing it. Someone has to hold all of those positions, right? Someone's going to be the cheapest. It's usually Walmart, or someone free with a digital camera. Like you just can't compete with Walmart, right? So I wanted to be on the other end, and being somewhere in the middle is the worst, right? That's like JCPenney's and Bergner's are like all going out of business because being in the middle is so hard. So I realized I want to work with the best clients doing the coolest things. And so what do I have to do to be able to charge that? That's what I think pricing is.
That's powerful. Mm-hmm. It's this abundant mindset, because like limiting yourself by, even what you've experienced in the past or even past clients, right? I remember when we increased our prices, it was like all those past clients, like when we were in the photography business specifically, we had this price increase. It's like all those past clients' friends now can't afford us because like they're in the same circle, right? And so we had to get this whole new circle of people. Then we started getting that circle. Then we started getting referrals and all these things. And I remember reading a book. It was talking about this company that sells tree houses that are like $250,000 tree houses. And it's like, if you can dream up the most amazing tree house ever, there's actually someone who does buy that treehouse. Like that someone is probably not me right now in this life. I don't value tree houses that much, but there is a client for that, and it was just like this extreme example of like, if you can really dream up, I don't know for you, do your students, do you kind of dream up the jewelry first, or you dream up kind of the, like, what you're going to, like, what is the value that you're going to add to this thing to get it to that jewelry level?
Well, once Julie happened, because I was getting $75 at a time. So when someone gave me $1,800, I started doing the math. And that's when I went, okay, this can be a career now. It's not just a fun little extra hobby thing while I figure out my next step. Like, this is my next step. So I really feel like I started looking at, because I think I'm super passionate about people having printed artwork and what it does to heal and help people, right? It brings families together. You got his kids and her kids, and they get married and they have our kids. Like, you put a photo on the wall, an image, a beautiful image of this family, like everybody feels so included. And young people are struggling right now. And to give them a gorgeous photo on the wall that makes them feel great, that's what I wanted to do. So what we teach our students is we sell the destination, not the airplane. And I think a lot of people get into, well, like, what should I order? Should I sell like canvases or acrylics or metals? And it's really like, you're asking the wrong question, because people don't come in going, oh, I'm not going to come to you because you don't have a 32 by 47 inch metal on your price list. They don't know. They just know they want the destination. If I tell my husband we're going to, want to go on vacation to Hawaii, I don't say, oh my gosh, we can take a 747 and rent a car to drive once we get there. Like, that doesn't matter. Like, we want the benefit of Hawaii. And our clients want to walk in their house and see an image on their wall of the people they love that gives them goosebumps every day, that makes them feel like a loving family and good parents. And after the pandemic, I had 3 at home, like late high school, early college, and you're all cooped up in this house. Like, we do need images to remind us that we do actually love each other.
That's good.
That's so true. I feel like, oh man, that was so good. Like, just thinking about how in sales, right? Because really it is sales, right? And I think so many people, when they hear that word just right now, I just said it, guys, and people are like, oh my gosh, I don't want to sell. I don't want to sell. Like, I don't want to have to sell this thing, But when you shift it to talking about that destination and painting that picture for people, I feel like that makes it so much easier. People coming into your world, like, that's probably the first time they've ever kind of really sold something, right? Like, what walls are they hitting? Like, how do you help them in that? Because that is such a thing, I think, for a lot of service-based businesses. Like, one, they're not charging what they're worth, but 2, they don't feel like they have they don't want to sell, or they have limited negative perception about sales.
For sure. And we're all creatives, right? Like, we just want people to have this stuff, and then we have to take their money, and it makes us feel so yucky.
Yeah.
And I hated sales too. I was in marketing in college, and people would say sales, and I would go, oh, no, I'm in marketing, not realizing that like marketing is selling. Because I was the pushy, obnoxious fourth grader selling Girl Scout cookies. They tell you don't take no. And I just remember the look on people's faces, like, you are the most annoying human ever. So as I got older, I started telling my mom, please buy some so I don't have to go door to door. And so a lot of people do that, right? We're conditioned that salespeople are bad, or we've had a bad experience. We've had a negative experience. Maybe our parents have taught us that. And I think a lot of people grew up with a resistance to buying. Parents say, oh, that refrigerator salesman was so pushy and blah, blah, blah. So I think a lot of times people's resistance to buy also translates to the resistance they're having to sell, right? Because it's like, I don't like you. You're a salesperson and you're being a jerk. And then, oh, I have to put on my salesman hat and now I have to be that jerk, And it's like, no, you don't have to do that. So with our students, we work a lot on the money blocks and the internal resistances that came from our past. They're all stories we tell ourselves. Look at Hollywood. The bad guy's always the wealthy entrepreneur, right? So like, we're bad. And they're if you're rich people are bad. And I love how Tony Robbins says, money is an amplifier. So if you're a jerk and you get more money, you're going to be a wealthy jerk and you're going to be a bigger jerk. And if you're a good person and you get more money, you can start charities. You can have a life with more meaning and purpose, and you can be a better human into the world. So we have to start looking at things like that. Like, what happened in your past that made you not like sales and not like money and not feel comfortable, taking money from other people? And it's amazing when, even I hope your listeners take a minute and just look back into your childhood when grandma scolded you for taking money off the shelf and saying, here, I found money. Like, there are little stories that were never meant to be malicious, but that we internalize, and then it blocks us up. Because I really believe we have a moral obligation. It's on us, just like your veterinarian, right? If you have a pet, you would hope that your veterinarian would call you and say, hey, your pet needs this shot and that shot to keep him healthy, right? It's sort of their moral obligation. Your auto mechanic, like, hey, your car hasn't been in lately. You really should take care of your car. I feel like as photographers, it is our moral obligation to the world to make sure that everybody is celebrated in this way, because we know time goes fast and you can't go back and do this stuff.
It's huge. You're selling me. I'm like, man, we got to print more things. We're really good at printing photos. Chelsea is like a very big believer in like print the photos. So we got everything, like, a lot of things printed and archived and all these things. And it is super powerful. But having that conviction about the result, right? She went back, if you listen, right? Like you went back to the result, which is so powerful, of like, this is why I'm passionate. And so, like, honestly, about the service you're delivering, I think sometimes people, especially in the service-based or creative industry, they fall into it because it was like maybe a passion at first, but then it kind of becomes this like you're making cakes, you love making cakes, and then like now all of a sudden it kind of becomes this business, and you kind of forget like that why of like why you did it in the first place. Like, what is a cake at an event? Like, what really is that? And so when you go back to that like destination, that result, like it makes it easier to like have that conviction of like, I believe that your event should have a cake, and here's why, it like comes back and it makes it easier. It's not just like dollars for cake. It's dollars for this way, like, it's like memories. It's this bigger thing. And so I feel like there's gonna be a lot of processing after this episode. As people are listening to, they're like, I'm going in my childhood. I'm thinking about my deep why, but these are really powerful things that help you really have more impact and income in your life. So Sarah, you're dropping a ton of gold. I love this. This is amazing.
Hey, thanks. That just really quick on the why. That's where, when I work with a new student, that's where we start them. And we talk about creating value, which really means in the eyes of the consumer, they think you're worth more. Don't you think it's worth more when I tell you I did not exist as a child? I don't know who my kids look like. I don't know. In my camera room, I have a little bitty photo that, is probably a Polaroid, and all you can see is the top of my head. And I have it in a giant frame. And everybody who comes in, I tell them this story. And I am so passionate. Everything leaves my studio archivally framed, which drives my prices way up, right? But they know it's because of my why and my passion. Because otherwise, how would I explain? Well, yeah, I'm more than everybody else,
Yeah.
They would be like, well, I'm just going to go to somebody less. But they go, whoa, she really cares about this and my kids are going to, they're not going to need therapy when they're an adult, because we can show them that we love them now.
Yes, you're saving them money. Oh my goodness.
I know. I tell my mom that she's my cause of therapy, which I'm ready for it. I'm sure I need it. But like I said, I started my business instead so I can save the world, save everyone else's kids.
Yeah.
I love that.
I mean, a lot of people instantly for sales, right? They go to let me tell you about how archivally framed is amazing. And they go to the features, right?
Yeah.
It's, and they go to all these things, but the story, like it's a 2-sentence story, but it like has so much impact. It sticks. Like, I don't remember how many years an archival frame is going to last, or, how it's anti-glare, any of these features. I care about the story, and that's what hits. Oh man, so good. I could just keep going. I love it. Well, Sarah, how would you encourage a mom who's listening? We got a ton of moms in our audience who is really feeling the pull here to like, I feel like I'm doing something right now that I'm being underpaid for. Like, I am undervaluing myself in this. Like, what's a step in the right direction for them after this episode?
I would say, to my core, find a mentor. I do it. All successful people have a coach. You have a coach. I have a coach. Our coach has a coach. Our coach's coach has a coach. Tony Robbins has a coach. Oprah has a coach. Michael Jordan has a coach. Your fifth grader who plays basketball has a coach, right? And I think that's what's so cool about this day and age. I had to pay money, travel 5 states away to find out that this man didn't make money and didn't run a real business. And so now you can go out and sample. You can do a webinar with someone and say, does this person resonate with me? Do I like the model that they teach? Are they even successful? Are they running a business? Are they doing it? Do they have successful students? Are they doing it? What does this path look like for me? Do they have someone on their team I can talk to see, like, do I need to wait till my kids are in school, or how can I do it sooner? Because there's someone else out there in your same life or even more challenging situation who is doing it. And so I think there are resources out there and you can do it slowly. I'm always like, I'm TSA pre-check girl. If I can pay to get there faster, I will pay to get there faster, because think of trying for 5 years to figure it out. You make an investment to learn, and then you're paying dividends for years and years and years. So I'm just such a believer in doing it that way. And I think it's hard because you have to go to your spouse and go, I know I failed a bunch, but I really want to do this next thing. Because I think as entrepreneurs, we just have to get good at failing. Failing is learning. I think the hardest thing is when you're not taking action anymore, you're stuck, you're stalled. And I think that is such a painful way to exist. It's like self-hurting yourself, right? Not self-love for sure. So find the education and go get it. No matter who it is, just find your person, go get it.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember the first conference that we went to, business. And again, it was back when we were mainly in our photography business. And I went to a conference that felt like pricey, flew across the country. And I sat in one session, and it was just like that one session changed everything for our business. And I would say even still affects the way I think about doing systems and stuff. And it was like, why didn't I do this sooner? Why didn't I invest in myself when I'm learning a skill? There are so many people that have valuable knowledge that are just a couple steps ahead of you or way ahead of you that can make that process of where you want to go so much faster. So I totally believe that, Sarah, and thank you so much for being on and just sharing that what people are providing is valuable, and to give yourself a raise and just having that confidence. And I know that sometimes that takes a while to get there, but totally believe in that. So Sarah, if our listeners want to learn more about what you are doing, where are you at on social media? Where can people find you and connect?
Yeah, we have Joy of Marketing is our website, and we have all kinds of free resources. We have a blog. You can connect with me on Instagram at sarah.petty. We just did a free 17-minute training. Shoot me a message that says new training. Just send me a direct message and I'll shoot it over to you if you feel like, oh, I'd love to have a boutique portrait photography business, right? We all teach sort of different things. So it's figuring out, is this even a way I'd want to go? Or maybe I want to go the business portrait route, or maybe I want to go the wedding route, and find your person. But it's just kind of a cool way to do that research without the big investment of driving across the country and getting a hotel room and making a bunch of mistakes. You can do it from the comfort of your own home.
Yes, that's awesome.
Love that.
I love it, Sarah. Well, thank you so much. I got a lot to process after this episode too, just going deep on. So we always encourage our listeners, hey, take action. What's that one thing that's just kind of stirring in you? I got to lean into this thing. Was it the think about the money stuff in your child? Was it the think about how you can offer more value? Create this Julie. What is that thing that's jumping out to you? So go think of it, write it down, take action on it. We don't want to just do this podcast to fill your ears. We want to do it to get you results. So thank you, Sarah, for being on the show and helping our audience get those results. Until next time, this is the Rainmaker Family Show. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for having me, guys.